Welcome, everybody. Our program will begin in just a few minutes.
Meeting billable time is good. And then I had to come back.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Camargo. I am the Women's Leadership Summit Committee Chair. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the second AIA Miami Women's Leadership Summit, Riding the Wave. Tonight is a very special night for all of us. This is not only the opening of our summit, which went through so many challenges due to the current pandemic, but we are also celebrating the 10th anniversary of our committee. The Women in Architecture Committee was created by two incredible ladies, Lourdes Solera, FAIA, and Nati Soto, FAIA, and I'm sure you'll be hearing much more about that during their presentations, as well as about all the first few women that through their efforts and energy, we have a committee today. Before we get started with our program, I would like to sincerely thank our sponsors and for their generous sponsorship. I'm getting there, just a minute. Oh. Thank you to our summit sponsors, Suprema, Epic Metals. Thank you so much to the Women in Architecture 10th anniversary sponsor, Schluter Systems. Thank you to all our supporters, EC Architecture and Design, MC Harry Associates, Ferguson Glasgow Schuster Soto Inc., Perkins and Will, Strang, Burton Hirsch, Collinsworth Insurance, Minotti Miami, VPI, Interface. And now I would like to share with you a short video from our sponsors.
We're having some technical difficulties. I'll start it up again. Sorry about that. Elizabeth, could we just move forward with the program and we'll show these in a minute? I'm having problems screening
Sure,
them.
not a problem. But before we move on, I would like to add one very important item that I forgot to mention in my introduction and my thanking to our sponsors. If it weren't for our sponsors' generous contribution to our event, first, we wouldn't be here tonight, but more importantly, we wouldn't have the funds to support our newly established Women in Architecture grant. So this is the very first year we were able to have the grant, and we have 4 recipients, and they will be announced during tomorrow's session, so stay tuned. So Naomi and Vanessa, would you like to take over?
Yes. All right. So to kind of kick things off today, we have a $50 gift card for the winner of our trivia and Do You Know Who? So I hope everybody has already downloaded the buzzer. This is going to be kind of like Jeopardy to make things a little bit fun. And Vanessa is going to keep score to see who wins.
Go to the link that's in the chat. So go to the chat and follow that link, and don't forget to name yourself so we can call on you. So whoever buzzes in first will have the opportunity to answer.
All right, so I'm going to give everybody like 15 seconds to do this, and we have some easy questions and we have some, let's say, challenging questions afterwards. Everybody will have 10 seconds to respond, or we go on to the next one. So hopefully everybody has downloaded. Vanessa, has anybody downloaded the buzzer thing?
Yes, we have a number of people on, and if you did not name yourself, I have kicked you off. So go back in really quickly and rename yourself.
$50 to, well, you know, Amazon. So to begin, can everybody see my screen? Okay, perfect. All right, thank you, Lourdes. So the first question, true or false? Frank Lloyd Wright's son invented Lincoln blocks.
All right, first buzzer in is Lourdes.
You have to unmute yourself. Everybody can unmute themselves if you don't mind.
False.
Actually, that is correct. He did invent Lincoln blocks.
No. Oh. He's uninvented, so I got it wrong. Okay.
Next question. This famous building sent a lot of people worldwide into a frenzy when it caught on fire. $50, guys. Anyone,
Okay.
Vanessa?
Egipcia.
World Trade Center.
Nope, that's wrong.
Notre Dame.
Notre
Notre
Dame.
Dame.
Okay, next one. Listen, it's Friday. Everybody's brain is a little bit dead today, right? And it's 2020.
Yeah.
2020.
The answer, Naomi?
Notre Dame, yes. Who was that?
Brenda.
Okay. Who said this? Less is more.
Glenda.
Mies van der Rohe.
All right. Okay. Now, who said this? Less is a bore.
Mary Carmen.
Mary Carmen?
Ben Shirley.
Yes, it was.
Now I can't hear.
Wow. Not very many people know that. I didn't know it until I was Googling some of these questions. So next up, what is this called?
I can't hear the thing.
All right, Lourdes.
Maybe somebody try checking out.
Lourdes?
The golden rule?
Kind of, no. Well, can we accept that, judges?
I'm gonna move to, Christine was next, but she disconnected.
Oh,
Golden ratio?
the golden ratio, yes. Okay, the next slide. These famous stones were said to be erected by aliens or Druids.
Natalie. Natalie was quick with the draw on that one.
You're not plugged in?
Natalie, unmute.
I think it's the pyramids,
No,
Egypt.
no. Anybody else?
Next person is Caitlin.
Stonehenge?
Yes. All right.
It's Friday.
It's Friday. It's okay. Okay, so this one is probably a lot won't get it, but hey, you can give it a try. This Ghanaian British architect, notably on the team for the National Museum of African American History and Culture, said, "For me, architecture is a social act."
Well, Glenda knows, because Glenda was in.
Dang. Who is it? Glenda?
Sorry, it was an accident. I do know,
Oh.
but I don't know. I know his face, but the name escapes me. So just
Give me
go
the
to
first name. No?
We
Michael?
screened his film. I can't believe it. We screened his short film at the Miami Architecture and Design Film Festival. But I'll let it go. I know.
Anybody else?
Christine. There's an order, Naomi.
I think it's David Adachi. I don't know
Very
what the hell it
good.
is.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, see, we're learning things tonight. Okay, typically used in Gothic architecture, what are these elements called?
Oh, wait.
Dang.
Lucille.
Buttresses?
Very good. Flying buttresses, but yes, we'll accept buttresses. Okay, so this is a play on words, right? So listen to it very carefully. You can place your money and jewelry in here, or this is an arched form in architecture.
All right. Caitlin was first.
A vault?
Very good. Okay, play on words. The largest organ on your body or the exterior planes of a building.
Is it Jaya?
Yes, the skin.
Very good. Somebody said epiduris once, and I was like, well, that's a little bit technical. I've never heard a building referred to as epiduris, but okay, skin it is. Who said this? There are 360 degrees, so why stick to just one?
All right, Christine.
Zaha Hadid?
Very true. And she also said, would they call me a diva if I were a guy? So, okay, what type of roof is this?
Jaya.
Mansard.
Mansard, okay. Play on words. This can be a male horse for breeding or something found inside a wall. 50 bucks.
All right, Patty.
Stud.
Ah, very good. True or false? The mortar holding together the stones of the Great Wall of China is made from rice.
All right, CAJ.
Just guess it.
Whose nickname or initials is CAJ? No?
No? Anybody else?
Yeah.
Yes, it's
Yes, it's made from sticky rice, the things we find out. Play on words, something you eat for breakfast or a type of ceiling or slab.
All right, Mariana.
Waffle slab?
Very good. True or false? This is the St. Louis Arch. True or false? The overall width of this structure is equal to the overall height.
Jaya.
Yes.
Yes, it is. It's a kind of an optical illusion. They're 630 feet high and 630 feet wide. Arch truss suspension are types of what?
Right, CAJ for you.
CAJ? Is anybody winning, Vanessa?
Yes.
Ah, uh-oh, 50 bucks.
All right, I don't know who CAJ is, but
But they're missing out on $50.
all right, so I'm gonna give it to Jaya.
Structural systems.
A bridge, I don't know.
Spanning systems.
Any structure. You know what? Let's accept that. Okay. Okay. Name this famous building.
Alex Goldstein.
The Florence Cathedral.
Hold on. Il
Yes.
Duomo, Santa Maria del Fiore.
No, it's the Florence Cathedral, but somebody said it. I didn't know who said it.
Il Duomo, I said.
Ah,
Duomo.
I think it is called Santa Maria. I think that's the
Okay.
actual name.
oh, well then I learned something tonight then. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. This one everybody should get. When an important client called to complain that water on the roof of his newly completed house was leaking onto a dinner guest, which famous architect said, tell him to move his chair?
Oh, no.
Mariana.
Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yes.
Wait, who got Il Duomo? Who got the point for that one?
Alex Goldstein.
I got negative because I didn't know the actual correct answer. My apologies.
All right.
Architecture was once an Olympic event. True or false?
Patty.
True.
Very true. During the first decades of the modern Olympics, 151 medals were awarded to music, painting, sculpture, and architecture. Okay, so these are a bit challenging. So we'll get a little bit more time. She was the first and only woman. So this is all about women in architecture, and it's very important that we know some of these things, all of these things. She was the first and only woman in architecture to win a Presidential Medal of Freedom. So this is also trivia and also, knowledge, learning. Nobody? Hint, it's a memorial in Washington, DC.
All right, so we have Christine buzzed in.
God, I'm trying to remember her name. 1 second.
Oh, I know.
She's calling a friend.
Okay. I honestly can't remember.
Okay, I'm second.
Anybody else?
Maya Lynn.
Maya Lynn, yes, okay.
God.
That's okay. She was the first African-American woman to become a licensed architect in the United States, and that was in 1959.
Wow.
I know it.
Who's
You gotta
that?
buzz in. You gotta buzz in.
I did.
Okay. All right, Lourdes.
Norma Slater. She's got another name that goes with it.
Close enough. Norma Merrick Sklarick. We'll accept. Lourdes is also my boss, so yes. Okay. She is the world's first officially licensed female architect. She was also the first employee of a world-renowned architect, male architect.
I know it too, but you can give it to somebody else. They don't know.
I'm gonna give it to Glenda.
Lourdes, you don't want $50? Is that a conflict of interest if you win?
It is a conflict of interest.
I'm gonna give it to Glenda. Glenda, do you know?
No? So these are things they don't teach us in architecture school, which is kind of the point of these questions.
Marion Mahoney.
Marion Mahoney Griffin. Very good.
Where is she from?
Oh, really? She's American.
She moved to Australia, and she and her husband built the Canberra City Hall or Capitol building in Australia.
Actually, that I did know about the Canberra City
Did
Hall.
all of Frank Lloyd Wright's drawings.
Yes.
They think.
Okay, you got a sneak peek. She was the first woman and the only solo woman to date to take home architecture's highest prize, the Pritzker Architecture Prize in 2004.
So Haya got it.
Okay. Who's that?
Hiya, you're on.
Oh, it's Zaha Hadid.
Yes, very true. Imagine that, almost 75 years after the award was started. Okay. She's recognized as the first woman in the United States to work professionally as an architect in the late 1800s. She and her husband practiced in Buffalo, New York.
Right,
This is
Mariana.
hard. Oh,
Is it Louise Blanchard?
wow. I'm very impressed. Yes. Very impressed. Okay. She was the first woman to receive posthumously the AIA Gold Medal from the American Institute of Architects in 2014, after she died.
And 150 years after the
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Lourdes was the first to buzz in.
Julia Morgan.
Julia Morgan. She is the brains and creativity behind a famous furniture company and regarded as a guardian of the interior design industry in the 1950s. Who's that?
All right, Alex Goldstein.
Florence Knoll.
Very true. Okay. We got a lot of people with knowledge here. Okay, this one is going to be tricky. She is known as a French Goth and uses deep red in most of her buildings. She was awarded the 2016 Jane Du Prize in Architecture. I hear no popping sounds.
There's one.
Silence.
Okay, Glenda.
Glenda, if you get this, wow, I'll give you $10. No? Who was it?
All right. The next person to buzz in was Mary Carmen.
Wait, I was muted. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
All right, Glenda.
It's Odile Deck.
Are you like Googling at the same time? Because that is really great.
She's really cool.
That is awesome. Yeah,
I did not know they called her French Goth though.
Yes, yes.
How she wears her makeup and hair, so I figured it had to be her.
Okay, we're closer to the $50. She is the second female Pritzker Prize winner. Her signature style comprises of her smooth surfaces and well-organized buildings, accompanied with modernist elements of time.
All right, that's Glenda again.
Wow.
But I'm confused about the way the question is phrased, because the second woman was part of Sana.
No, but these are solo.
Second women solo. After Zaha, it was Sana, and then the Irish women that won this year.
Okay, well then Google is wrong then, because that's not what I have on here.
I mean, if anyone else can, maybe. I think the only women's.
It's Kazuyo Sehima.
She's from Sana. And it's men and women.
Yes. Okay. I didn't know that I didn't have it on here on my cheat sheet, the firm that she was with. So, well, then we will give that to her. Okay. Well, these two women had the first woman-owned firm to win the American Institute of Architects Firm Award in 2007. They're both elected to the AIA College of Fellows. You can give me any one of them.
Lourdes.
Marion Wise and Wise, what's the other one's name?
Susan Maxman.
Yeah, Marilis would know probably better than I would.
Uh-oh, are you passing it to Marilis?
I'm passing it to Marilis.
Susan Maxman, I know her. Nice lady.
No, again, maybe Google is wrong because you see, Marilis is my professor, so I'm going to just defer to her that she knows it all.
Oh, I got it wrong. Tell me, what is it?
Andrea Lears and Jane Winsbethel.
Yes.
Oh, Andrea and James together. Yes.
Yes.
They were my professors.
Okay. She has and I actually told you this answer before, so think about it. She has an annual architecture award named after her. She was one of the first women architects in the United Kingdom in 1996, and she was made a dame by the Queen of England. She was also rumored to be a spy for Her Majesty.
All right, Mariana.
I'm gonna say Zaha just because they call her Dame.
No, this was way before Zaha.
Okay.
But good try. I don't think Zaha was a spy for Her Majesty though, but you never know. Architecture does have its dramatic flair. Anybody else? Natty, you should know this one.
No one else has buzzed in.
Okay, it's Dame Jane Drew.
Why would I particularly know?
No, never mind. That was somebody else that you should get the answer to. Never mind.
Okay.
Yes, okay. Okay, we're nearing the end. Her husband, who died in 2018, won the Pritzker Prize in 1991. But although the couple had always worked in partnership, her name was not included in the prize.
Buzz. I don't have the
Buzz.
buzz thing. I don't have the buzz thing.
Caitlin.
Denise Scott Brown.
Yes, quite in her front. She's best known for inventing the hollow fireproof K-brick, a precursor to the modern concrete cinder block. She was also the first woman to become a registered architect in Pennsylvania. First names are acceptable. But you all didn't know about all of these accomplishments in women in architecture.
No, I didn't.
No takers, Vanessa? Anna Keikling. I'm going to say that's her last name. I'm very sorry. Okay. She was highlighted in Forbes magazine for advocacy for diversity in the architecture industry. She is the current president for NOMA National, its first youngest female president.
Where's Craig? Is Craig?
I know, right? Where's Craig? Exactly. You gonna phone a friend?
No one's buzzing in.
Vanessa, you want to take this one?
No, I want Craig to take it.
You want Craig to take it? Okay, for everybody's edification, it's Kimberly Dowdell, and she's an amazing. Okay, she's part of a husband and wife duo responsible for the genesis of Miami 21.
All right, Alex. She was ready.
Elizabeth Plater-Cyber.
Yes, I think Elizabeth, Alex is winning. Okay, even though she never had any formal architecture training, this is the last one. Her influence in the architecture industry spanned 70 years, including development and use of the early computerized design called Carla. Natia, but you didn't know this about her. No takers?
No.
Beverly Willis.
Oh my God, I should have known.
Who knew that a female developed the first computerized system for AutoCAD? Well, before AutoCAD.
We should have known because of the 70 years.
Exactly.
I don't think there's anybody
So Vanessa,
else.
who won the $50?
With 6 points, it is Haya.
Okay, so you need to send us your email so we can send you this.
Really?
Yeah, big spender.
About Beverly Willis, that most importantly about her is that she started a foundation to ensure that the work of female architects is recognized both in contemporary practices and historical narratives. And I have a picture with her in my presentation.
Wow. Well, good to see. Yes, know that, and we will see that in your presentation.
All right, so Vanessa and Naomi, now that the game is over, we were able to overcome our technical difficulties. So Colleen will be showing the videos.
Clear. Open. Graceful spaces. Powerful. Architectural roof and floor deck ceiling systems that span distances unmatched in the industry, with exceptional sound absorption.
Elizabeth, we can move on from here. We'll show the last one later.
Oh, all right. So now it's time to start our 10 by 10 by 2. So Lourdes, would you like to take the command?
Actually, that would be Cheryl. But okay, I'd like to introduce Cheryl, who was our initial master at the event, at our event back 10 years ago. So Cheryl, the floor is yours.
Sure. I'm just checking to make sure everybody can see me. I was having some technical difficulties.
We see you and we hear you.
Okay. Do you see the 10 by 10?
No.
No.
No, but we see you.
Okay, so hang on, guys. Sorry about this. But my computer is giving me.
Do you want me to pull it up, Cheryl, and you just tell me when to move?
If you can give me a minute. Let me see if I can get it. And if not, then we may have to do that. We had it working before, but okay, here we go.
I also have it if you need me to share my screen. Ah, there we go.
Got it?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. So it's hard to believe it's 10 years. And we have 10 amazing women that are participating that were actually involved 10 years ago. And we have asked them to share with us some of their thoughts from 10 years ago to now. So I'd like to call first our first speaker, and also one of the first people that were, one of our very first women that were involved, Giovanna Alvarez. Giovanna, as an owner's representative and senior project manager with over 25 years of experience in construction and project management, Giovanna is committed to promote environmental and sustainable solutions with her leadership skills that have let her undertake command on different tasks throughout her career. Giovanna believes that AIA is an organization that forges professional relationships and builds upon one's character, knowledge, and leadership. For this reason, her passion, dedication, and commitment to help upcoming architects develop a notion of networking and self-evolution in the industry, as well as sustainability awareness, is one of her priorities. And let me say that, just remind you that this is done in the Pacha-Kacha format. I'm moving things forward. And Giovanna, have you activated your screen?
I am in. Can you hear me?
I hear you, can't see you though.
Can't see myself. For some reason, I thought you guys blocked everybody.
You can turn your screen on, your video. Oh, there you go. You.
See me?
Yep.
Here she is.
I don't see myself.
Well, don't worry about it. We see you.
Perfect.
So slide one, get going.
Good afternoon. Like I mentioned, my name is Giovanna Alvarez. I am honored to be part of this special presentation. I am going to be sharing the timeline of my past 10 years and the two most important events that has occurred in that time frame. I will be sharing my experiences and my knowledge that I have acquired. During that time, we had world economy that impacted our architecture and the construction field. And now we are being impacted with the recent COVID-19 pandemic. One of the events that I'm going to be talking about is I had to overcome challenges by adapting to the diversity of project demands. I gained knowledge and expertise within the different offices. My second event was to have work-life balance, becoming a mother. I learned to divide my time between work and the most precious gift a woman can have, a child. I will always be a role model to my daughter, Juliana, and to my profession as diligent as possible. The slide that we have up is when I was working before and during 2010. I worked with one of the prestigious international firms, Perkins & Will. I worked in mixed-use projects and healthcare. This is the mixed project I worked in Abu Dhabi. Next. While at Perkins & Will in Washington, D.C., I worked in the Johns Hopkins Hospital, interior room layouts as a project manager and designer. In 2011, I worked with another international firm, HKS, adding to my healthcare and mixed-use project experience. I worked on the Baptist Health South on the oncology floor. I also had the pleasure to work in Miami Children's Hospital's hybrid OR, as well as working on renovation projects, which was the One Hotel and Residence, a mixed project. In 2015, I worked in Schulman & Associates, a local design firm with historical preservation expertise. I worked on historic presentations, hospitality projects, which is the Betsy Carlton Hotel. In 2018, I worked with DSS into 2020. After acquiring the knowledge that I needed as an architect, I became an owner's rep for one of the most prestigious private schools in Miami, Ransom Everglades, located in Coconut Grove. This has been my passion for many years while working as a construction administrator in the architecture firm. I was able to work on different phases and different projects within Ransom Everglades. It was an 18.5 acres from infrastructures to new building, which is a new construction on the STEM building. My second event in my life has been my love, my daughter, my passion, architecture and construction, and my awards. I have received several honorable mention AIA awards as an individual and as a collaborator of design teams. In my 10 years, I have been faced with a lot of challenges, but extremely rewarding, both in the professional and personal level. I strongly encourage every woman architect to never give up and follow their passion and dreams. Thank you.
Thanks, Giovanna.
Thank you.
Next, Elizabeth Camargo. Elizabeth is the founding principal of a boutique architecture and design firm in Miami Beach, specializing in residential, commercial, and entertainment projects. She has an extensive involvement with the AI Miami chapter, becoming in 2017 the 5th woman president since the chapter's inception. She currently sits on the AIA Florida board as the Miami State Director. In recognition of her services and dedication to the organization, she has earned the 2018 Architect of the Year Award, 2019 H. Samuel Cruz Silver Medal Award, and the 2020 AIA Florida Anthony Pilar Award. Elizabeth.
Oh. Hi, everybody. We can get started, Cheryl. Where was I in 2010? That's a very loaded question, and there are so many different aspects of my life that I could tackle to answer it. However, I decided to pick one that had the most dramatic impact in my current life and also gives me a great sense of fulfillment. In 2010, The economy was recuperating from the 2008 recession, and we could see the cranes moving again back in the Miami skyline. My firm was about 5 years old, and I fared well during the recession. I never had a 3, 5, or 10-year plan. Maybe because I am a woman or a woman of my generation, or because my personality, I'm seriously not a risk taker. In those few years of my practice, success was paying the bills at the end of the month. Something went wrong, Cheryl? No, now you have to go back.
Because it's a PDF, I think you just have to move forward, Elizabeth.
Well, it all changed
Yeah, timings.
when I attended my first meeting at the Women in Architecture Committee and felt very excited about the possibilities. It was the beginning of my deep involvement with the AIA, something that I never look back to regret. Then one day, Sharon invited me to join the board. And with that, and then following Eleanor Roosevelt's advice, that she says, you must do things you think you cannot. I said yes, I took the challenge. And serving on the board and also in the Women in Architecture Committee gave me the opportunity to further expand my reach through the mentoring committee and the Women in Architecture as well. As in 2016, as the president-elect, I was in charge of the Design Award Galas, and we purposely chose the Little Haiti Cultural Center because to me that was my humble gesture towards creating a new image of architects to the community. Can we go to the next? I was profoundly, I was very proud when I became in 2017 the 5th woman president of our chapter since 2019 when the chapter was created. However, things dramatically have improved since then, and for the past 4 years, all the presidents have been women. But the Hurricane Irma hit us, but it brought me a silver lining, the creation of the Resilient Committee and the 2018 Women's Leadership Summit. Since many of us could not attend the National Leadership Summit, we decided to create our own, and thanks to that, we are here today. Next. So what changed between 2010 and 2020? Next. We had the Me Too and the Black Lives Matter movement, and thanks to them, there is a systemic push towards achieving justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion in our profession, and hopefully in our society as a whole. However, we also have the current pandemic, which threatens to wipe out most of women's gains in the workplace from the past recent years. Women are much likely to leave the workforce to take care of children and to express exhaustion. So as for me, I've been able to satisfy my wish to help others and expand my reach and hopefully impact in a positive way people way beyond the immediate circle of clients and the buildings I design. I developed friendships with incredible women, many of them are here today, found mentors and role models, established a strong support group and a wide professional network. All things that are so important for women to thrive and grow professionally in an environment that's still, unfortunately, somewhat hostile to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So our next speaker is Jackie Gonzalez-Tuze. Jackie, are you, can you unmute and show us your face?
Hi,
There you are.
everybody. Hello.
So Jackie is the founding principal of Tuze Studio based in Wynwood. She and her partner, Carlos Prio Tuze, founded this innovative design studio in 2004. The work of Tuze Studio has been described as finely crafted modern architecture and design, which is mindful of its context, culture, and climate. She was awarded Architect of the Year by her AIA Miami peers and is a recipient of the Silver Medal of Architecture Design, the highest honor AIA Miami bestows. Jackie?
Well, hello, everybody. welcome to 10 years later. I can't believe that time has passed. It's really nice to be with all of you, even virtually, and to see so many familiar names. So let's get right to it. 10 years later, what's changed? 10 years ago, I think that line from Walt Whitman, for all of us, especially women, that we all contain multitudes applies. I am and have been all of these things, and I continue to be all of these things. So I was in the middle of raising my children. They were elementary school age. I was in their classroom, and I was very busy building a practice with my husband and my partner. And things were going pretty well. We started our firm 16 years ago. I had left Arquitectonica, where I had been for 7 years, and was very excited to be finally using my own voice with in a method that was meaningful to me and was addressing climate and culture and technology in ways that were satisfying. And I was in the mix. Instead of managing people, I was involved with my projects directly in a very sort of boutique atelier environment. But in 2020, I would say that the main two things that have changed for me is a growing awareness that as much as it's important to do well as an architect and as a mother, the world is in trouble, the planet is in trouble, and I no longer feel it is enough to just sort of focus on my own work. It really is important increasingly to address some of the changes and to create a path for those coming behind me and for my children and the other children on this planet. That if we do nothing and if we continue to do work the way we've been doing it, then life as we know it is just not viable. So that has been increasingly a concern of mine. And the societal issues have been discussed, the Me Too, the Black Lives Matter, all of the issues in our society that have been laid bare by this pandemic are even more important. This is just a slide because it kind of tells you where I think I am. You know, in the beginning, I just wanted to play with the boys. I wanted to compete. I didn't really want to talk about myself as a woman architect particularly. This is Charlotte Perriand. I went to a show in MoMA and discovered that my favorite Corbusier lounge chair that I had been coveting for all these years was actually designed by a woman. And I didn't know that. And just as it's been discussed in this button trivia, there's a lot of things that we don't know about women. And that kind of troubles me as well. So I am increasingly aware that it is important to have a diversity and to have women represented and to share our voice. And just really quickly on this woman, she was very humanist, and it's really worth reading her background because she kind of was much more interested in nature and culture and climate than Corbusier was, and actually a lot to learn about her. So I've been busy perfecting the craft, working in the same things that I was working 10 years ago. So that really has not changed. This is a long-term game, and it takes every bit of effort to be good at it and to perfect it. So I'm still in the game, working and loving what I do. And that part really has just been a deep enjoyment. I'm very lucky to work with people that I love and on things that I really enjoy. So that's been great. And I think it's been clear also that, you know, it is important to get recognition in this field. My husband and my partner is like, I don't really care about awards, you know, what does it matter? But I always tell him it matters to me a little bit more, I think, because I'm aware that there weren't that many role models that I knew of when I was a young architect. And I think it's important that that we compete and we win against men and that we show up. And so I'm grateful for the awards that I've won, especially for that reason. The other thing that changed in 2014 is that Cuba opened up. And so for the first time, I have about 30 books on Cuban architecture and Cuban culture. I am a very proud Cuban, born in Cuba. My parents are born in Cuba. Carlos is born in Cuba. And I made it my mission to really get to know about my own roots and explore that because it has been something that has lived in my imagination. My thesis was about Cuba and Cornell. So it is very much a big part of me, and being a Latina and being Cuban is something that I really have gotten into and has inspired a lot of my work. So that's something that has changed, and it wasn't available before the last 10 years. And in terms of what I think two roles that have added to my resume, I consider myself, I've been during COVID planting a native garden and a mini farm and ripping out my lawn because it's kept me sane and it's kept me grounded. But I'm planting as many seeds as I can in the community. I have gone into the belly of the beast and worked directly with the people that I know best, the developers and the business people, to really, because I think we all agree about what's happening with the climate and the planet. So it's important.
Yep, Jackie froze, but let's give it a few seconds and see if she comes back to us. There you are. You're back.
Sorry.
All right.
So I'm just saying that it's important for us to go where we're not necessarily on friendly ground. I've been talking a lot with developers, real estate people. I'm on the MRED Resiliency Committee, and the only reason I joined was really to talk to them about resiliency and how important it is that they get ready and they get the community ready. I like the word wayfinder. That's what the original Bahamian builders that helped the white settlers in Miami build in Miami. They're the ones who taught them how to use local materials and build for our climate. And I think we need modern day white wayfinders, and I hope to be one. That's my goal for myself in the next.
So the only problem with all of this virtual programming is we can't always have fabulous internet. So there you go. You're back. You're back.
What part did you hear? Well, the idea of being a
Wayfinder.
wayfinder. Yeah, the idea of being a wayfinder, and the original Bahamian settlers were called wayfinders because they taught the settlers here how to build with climate and local materials. And so my heroes, Eva Seisel, Ray Eames, Margaret Mead, Jane Jacobs, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. These are women that found their voice later in their lives and made a really big difference in terms of the planet, in terms of the way people live. Ruth, who we lost sadly this year. They inspire me that the next chapter is one that is even more important. It's really about doing more for the planet and for the next generation. So that's what inspires me. Thanks.
Thanks, Jackie. That was great. So our next speaker, and Jackie, you can mute yourself. Our next speaker is Haya Cater. Haya is the founder and principal of KZ Architecture, a Miami-based full-services design studio committed to design excellence and sustainable building practices. Haya has been an advocate for sustainable design since the inception of her practice in 2003, and recently her team won in a resilient housing competition organized by Build Academy and sponsored by the World Bank and the United Nations Habitat for a Better Urban Future. Haya, take it away. You're on mute, sweetie. Unmute. There you go.
I just want to welcome everybody, and I'm grateful to be here. So what I thought I would do is I would share my journey over the last 10 years through my work. So as I look upon the last 10 years, I think the better question for me is not what has changed, but what has not, because everything seems to have changed. So back then, I was still working from my home studio in the attic of the home, which I designed for a growing family, shown here on the left. After 15 years of juggling work and family, I thought I had finally nailed the live-work conundrum to a T as I started my practice in 2003 for my attic. I was inspired by both of my roles, and how I was able to juggle them was a tribute to our home, whose warmth, beauty, and natural surroundings constantly enhanced our lives and sustained us. The dining room in the heart of the house would transform from conference room to the setting for celebrations with family and friends within minutes, and I felt blessed every time a client came through my door and offered the opportunity for a new creative endeavor to gift others what I had been able to realize for my family, a physically, mentally, and spiritually sustaining setting for creating a home. And with that intention, I moved my practice to a studio and hired desperately needed help to continue to craft home for others. Each project became a reflection of the insights learned as homemaker and the dreams of those I was serving. But then in 2013, I had a personal crisis. And the personal crisis seemed to coincide with all these new voices that were emerging in the work field. There was Lean In from Sheryl Sandberg, Emma Watson, Anne-Marie Slaughter's article in the Atlantic. Here I am with Beverly Willis, that's that woman at the bottom. And then in our profession, you know, we all know about Denise Scott Brown and the Pritzker and how women have struggled in our profession. And I decided to become a part of the missing 32% or equity by design, and invited to a couple of symposia in San Francisco. But after all of that, I realized that I had been wearing the gender veils, the veils of gender conditioning in our society, and set out to reinvent my personal life. But little did I know the effects that this personal shift would have in my practice. In 2015, I attended an architectural conference in Norway and was deeply touched by the way architecture displayed a reverence for the natural environment that I had not encountered in my professional life. It was as though the architecture was no longer the object, but the enhancer of nature. With a wish to share this approach, I did that house, sorry, Cheryl, which was all nestled with 28 specimens of trees in Coconut Grove. And then when we won that competition with the World Bank and the United Nations, I was invited to participate in a number of UN conferences. And to me, that was like an eye opener, because for the first time in my life, I came across this army of people that are there just to be of service to the world. I don't know if you're familiar with the 17 development goals from the UN, but it was truly, it has been, the last 2 years have truly been transformational. So I gave a talk at the UN about design as a tool to raise consciousness and affect change in the world. And with this wish, I started volunteering my services for projects for social impact, as well as participating in competitions for social impact. So these are 3 projects that I'm going to talk about. One is the resilient prototype. Another one is a school for a sustainable community in Liberia, Africa, as architecture as a proactive agent for transformation. And the third one is architecture for peace. Go to the next one. So this is our resilient prototype. This is me and my team. After doing luxury homes for about 15 years, we were shocked that we were one of the winners with about 3,000 entries. And we were the only American team to be a winner and the only all-women team. This project is a project that I volunteered to do in Liberia, Africa, for a sustainable agricultural community. What I wanted to show here is at the bottom, we think in the Western world that we are helping others by giving our charity, right? So that's the UNICEF building in Monrovia. And we fail to recognize that what these children need as much, or perhaps even more than food and shelter and clothing, is inspiration. So if we provide beautiful settings for them that can inspire them to create sustaining futures for themselves. And so that was the premise of that project. And then this project is a project that I did for an NGO called Roots of Peace, which removes mines from war-torn areas, explosive mines. So with this project, we delve deeply into sacred geometry and the 4 elements of nature. And it's all about the spiraling landscapes that lead to this pavilion, which hopefully is a pavilion of contemplation without any iconographic symbols that would, so that it's inclusive to all. And this was a very amazing experience. We went to Vietnam, where the project is going to be. And then I end with this competition because we're delving deeply into fusing more architecture and nature and using organic forms. This is a competition that we did for a school in Mozambique. And thank you. And I echo Jackie's call to service during this time of 2020. It's a really time to reckon with our past and understand that the pure fight for equity within a system that is flawed is not sufficient, that it behooves us as women to really think about what we can contribute that is different. Thank you.
Thank you, Haya. That was great.
Thank you.
So our next speaker is Marilise Nepomechi. Marilise is a professor of architecture and associate dean at the FIU College of Communication, Architecture, and the Arts, CARTA. Her creative work and scholarship focus on the environmental, cultural, and social contexts of design. It includes a broad range of proposals for resilient, affordable infrastructure and housing, many conducted through collaborative community-based design processes. Included in the archives of the U.S. National Building Museum, the work of her practice has been honored with over 40 professional and academic awards, plus national and international exhibitions. Marilise, if you want to unmute yourself. There you are.
Hello.
Hi.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. And thank you, Cheryl, for the introduction. As Cheryl said, I'm an architect. I'm a professor of architecture at FIU, as well as an academic administrator. And there have been a number of changes in my life, as in probably everyone's life over the last decade. But I'd like to focus tonight on changes as reflected in the direction of my work as an architect and as an educator. Over that period of time, there's been a growing focus on my role in the academy, a focus on research, on exhibitions, on realizing the agency and public responsibility of the profession, and on engaging in a number of service projects. The one that you see here is the beginning of the decade. It was national and international awards and recognition for affordable housing and urban design projects created in collaboration with communities and done, of course, with my colleague Marta Canaves, ASLA at FIU. They're part of a larger focus on resilience, equity, and access in the profession that just grew with intensity over the course of the decade. What you see there is a book created in 2010, commissioned by AIA Miami to celebrate the coming of the AIA National Convention back to Miami after almost 7 decades. The publication had wonderful photography by Stephen Brooke. And the thing that I wanted to mention this evening was that rather than look only at the monuments of the city, which it clearly did, it also took on the entirety of Miami-Dade County. The interest was not to just focus on the well-known buildings, but on the histories and monuments of the diverse ethnic, racial, and national populations that have made Miami their home over the last 100 years. The last decade has also included a number of exhibitions exploring the influences on Miami's development. La Habana Moderna was funded by the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, was presented with the Wolfsonian FIU at the Frost Art Museum at the university. It looked at Miami and Havana connections in the years of the Republic, 1902 to 1959, particularly through the lens of tourism as a mechanism for understanding the city. Don't know, yes, that same project, actually the structure of that project continued in the years that followed through a discussion and a comparative study on coastal urban resilience in Miami and in Havana. It extended to an exploration of resilience strategies and visionings for the future of the two cities, and resulted in an invitation to exhibit our work at the International Architecture Biennale in Rotterdam, where we created through models, film, maps, and photographs a kind of environment that would explain the very particular relationship between these two centers and their potential role in the future. Cheryl, next. No?
Yeah, we
next.
move forward. You're not seeing them on your screen. We're on the O House.
Okay, so now you've gone too, but that's okay. The
So
one
we're
that you
back
saw
to the
very
spring
briefly.
symposium.
Yes, I wanted to, that one, perfect, the
Yes.
Radical Hive. In addition to the various publications and international exhibitions, the decade would also bring a series of opportunities to talk about resilience, about equity, and about access, and the role of the architect in the public. This one in particular looked at social housing or affordable housing experiments in Latin America. It was part of a symposium that brought academic colleagues and practicing architects from around the Americas to talk about their work in social housing. This was done at the old Miami Center for Architecture and Design. I'm sure you recognize it. We miss it in this virtual environment. And it was, again, an opportunity to talk about critical issues of our time: the need for housing, the need for accessibility, and the need for social responsibility. Part of the exhibitions that I became involved in doing were also exhibitions at full scale, both nationally and internationally. I worked to bring a group of FIU students to design and build a net zero house for the US Department of Energy solar decathlon. The images on your right are the house in Washington, DC. We earned top 10 honors for resilience, sustainability, and livability. We so impressed a group of Chinese colleagues at Tsinghua University in Beijing that they invited us to be partners in the creation of the O House at the 2013 inaugural Solar Decathlon China, in which we actually came in number 3 or number 2 internationally. The solar house at FIU is on our campus and part of a legacy of the work of our students. Another big part of what's happened in recent years is a growing focus on a special kind of design, a design and research thinking on a new area of growing urgency for our planet and for our region. And that, of course, is something that 2 of my colleagues have already mentioned, in its climate resilience. Miami 2100 at the Coral Gables Museum was funded by the National Science Foundation as well as the Cintas Foundation. It resulted in a number of projects that were university-wide and also many that were created in collaboration with the building industry, the profession, and across the academy. The Carter Climate Change Studio is what you saw in that slide. This last decade also brought promotion to full professor membership in the College of Distinguished Professors from the Association of Collegiate Schools of Architecture, and opportunities for national and international leadership. As president of the ACSA, I did all of the work that you see on the screen now, the creation of a new peer-reviewed journal for technology, architecture, and design, the creation of an index of scholarship to support professional practice and education, a series of conferences that brought in interests across the Americas and in the uncharted territories of a new way of dealing with higher education and professional education in our context and in our time. Finally, my recent practice has included work with the National Council for Architectural Registration Boards as the creator of an IPAL program in our school, appointment by AIA National to the International Union of Architects as co-director and co-reporter of the Education Commission of the UIA, and just this week, beginning of my presidency at the NAAB, the National Architectural Accrediting Board. We are looking very holistically at ways in which to improve the professional training of young architects as they enter the profession in which we are all engaged. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Marilise. That was terrific. So let me bring up our next speaker. And you can mute yourself, Marilise. Thank you very much. And Patty?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Patricia Rice Spivey, recently retired, lucky you, is a former vice president, principal, and healthcare practice leader with Studio Plus Architects, interior designers, and planners. She held the American College of Healthcare Architects certification, indicating that she is one of the few experienced, independently certified healthcare architecture specialists in the state of Florida. And her responsibilities included overseeing all existing and new projects, acquiring new clients, and nurturing professional relationships. So with that, Patty, let's go.
Okay. I'm so happy to be back with all of you again this year. Some of you know that architecture is a second career for me. My passion to combine my social psychology background to design spaces that affect how people feel led me to looking back over the past 10 years to my favorite project, which is still Alex's Place. The challenge was to design a comforting space for cancer patients ranging from infants to age 22 in just 3,000 square feet. The donor of this project wanted technology to enhance the overall experience while they were receiving treatment. And so we were able to work with an interactive company. And as you, there's an interactive avatar for kids, there's an interactive jungle floor, and interactive wall for teenagers. Here you can see, can we go back one more? In order to provide space for all the ages would want to come to, we stayed away from the traditional primary colors. Vibrant, uplifting colors and the secondary color hues were chosen instead, and we wanted to make sure that the spaces were open to nature. So we included some ceiling panels that were backlit with the sky and palm photos. To the left on that other was a sub-waiting area for the parents, as well as furniture for charging stations. To minimize the effect of the institutional space, we wanted to use linear recessed light fixtures. To the right, that's where that interactive bug floor is. The toddlers crawl around and chase bugs on the floor through the jungle. It's loads of fun. Tables were provided in different sizes, so the one closest to us is kid size, so that there was a place for everybody, depending on what your age group was. The reclining area was for the older children, and it was separated with this colorful partial wall from the toddler area, and they had swing-up tables so that the children could use their laptops for homework or other distractions. And then I thought it was important to have a variety of different places to be, as the infusion sessions usually lasted for several hours. So this desk area has built-in monitors for computer surfing for the patients as well as the parents. And all of the components of the space tied in the color palette, including the millwork, cubicle curtains, and all the other finishes. And I was able, to find a company that could do the laser cut koi fish in the, this is, I can't think of the name now, but special flooring, which is lots of fun. And it also added a sort of a wayfinding element. The 6 exam rooms were designed with custom monitors in the ceiling. We wanted to lessen the stress of the kids. So these monitors show fish swimming from one exam room to the next through the glass, which gives a calming effect of an aquarium. So then on a personal note, I reached my personal goal of becoming a principal of a 45-person firm within this last 10 years. The role, as many of you know, includes what I call the 3 M's, a lot of marketing, mentoring, and managing. I thoroughly enjoyed my job and the great people I have worked with over the years. But now I'm retired. My out of the office notice is permanently on, and I plan to spend as much time with my grandkids. I have one granddaughter that lives in Sweden. She's Swedish, and I want to travel the world as soon as COVID goes away. So thank you so much for allowing me to be with you guys again today.
Thanks so much, Patty. It's great seeing you again. So our next speaker, you can mute yourself, and then our next speaker is Cricket Snow. She's an associate principal at Perkinsville, Miami, responsible for the management of various project types ranging from custom interiors to multi-acre site developments. As an active member of the Miami design community, she has served on the City of Miami Planning Board, AIA Miami Board, and the Miami Center for Architecture and Design Board. She was president of AIA Miami in 2010 when Miami hosted the National Conference on Architecture. So does that mean if we get it back, Cricket, that we can call you back to help us bring the conference?
I don't know. I think you'll have to talk to Lourdes about that because she's the one that tricked me into it in the first place.
Okay, well, here you go.
Okay, so we were asked to focus on 2 things that have changed in our lives in the last 10 years. And the first slide is just really a lot of things that have changed. The first thing I'm focusing on really is just life. And so this is kind of a timeline of how my life has changed in the last 10 years. I mean, in 2010, my husband Trent and I had a toddler, and now we have a teenager. Big difference. During that time, we dedicated about 2 years building an addition to our house by ourselves, living in it, torturing our 7-year-old the whole time. And we also said goodbye to 2 good dogs, and we got a new pup that you see there, who's now 2 years old and crazy, who Cheryl asked about at the beginning of our meeting. We spent as much time as we could outside and in the water with any time we didn't have working. So not too bad for 10 years in one slide. But where life and work overlap, I've really had the good fortune throughout my career to work with what feels like extended family. I made a move from one amazing group of people and my mentor to work with another amazing group of people at Perkins and Will who inspire me every day. And I say that because I think it's so, so important. Jackie touched on it, to feel inspired and to love what we do and who we work with. And I work with people, I collaborate with people every day that I learn from and I laugh with, and it's really wonderful to have those relationships at work. My first project when I went to Perkins and Will in the middle of this 10-year period was a project on Miami Beach that was intended to be a spec retail project with a developer, which turned out to be the first Baptist medical facility on Miami Beach. So it turned out to be quite political. Many public meetings later, we were proud to see it open in 2018. As a healthcare project, we really pushed the program of healthcare and wellness to ensure that daylight got into all of the spaces. The roof deck is an extension of the physical therapy suite. So it was really a wonderful experience to have as my first project at Perkins and Will. Soon after that project ended, we actually partnered with a client who you'll see the next 3 projects that I'm showing are all with that client. And it's been kind of a variety of technical projects combined with hospitality. The first one, they're for premium lounges at various airports around the world. The first one was right here at Miami International, where we turned a rooftop that overlooked the airside into an extension of a premium lounge. This particular one here you see had a specialty wine bar, and this is showing one of the lounge areas. The next project we did with them, which just opened last week, was actually a terminal shell extension to the Terminal 4 building at JFK. It's a 2-story addition suspended over the airfield with specialty curtain wall, custom curtain wall. And while this is not the sexiest part of the project, I have to tell you that it includes about 800 linear feet of seismic expansion joint. You can see there we're attached to the existing angled curtain wall. So it was quite a technical feat, but you can see from the interior photographs that it really came together as a hospitality project at the end. This particular project offers a 2-story lantern at the entry, an Equinox spa, and a speakeasy actually. And then this is the last project in that same group, which was actually at the Hong Kong airport. While this one didn't require any shell expansion, it had some pretty fun challenges. We had to design this entire project without using any combustible materials because of the fire sprinkler situation at the Hong Kong airport in this particular area. So imagine doing a high-end hospitality project with hardly any furnishings that could have cushions, without carpet, without wall covering. So this was truly a collaborative effort with a large team to really use a unique palette and custom detailing, to make the project successful. We continue doing projects with this client, and each one of them has their own challenges, but it's really been a wonderful journey for me in the last 10 years to be able to work on such different project types.
Thank you, Cricket. That was great. So let me bring up our next speaker, and Lourdes.
Yeah.
Hi there. Lourdes Solera, with 30 years of professional practice. Lourdes' experience in both public and private private world has given her a clear understanding of the intricate relationships and coordination needed to successfully deliver projects that fulfill the client's needs. She has been a dedicated leader at AIA for many years, including leading the Institute in many positions at the state and local level. She was the AIA Miami chapter president in 2004. She also was very involved in the national convention that was here in 2010. And she served on the Florida Board of Architecture and Interior Design. Today she serves as AIA Florida's Board of Directors Vice President for Professional Development. She is co-founder of AIA Miami's Women in Architecture Committee, and she will be AIA Florida's president in 2022. Lourdes.
Can you advance, please? There.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I
There's
stuck for a minute there.
Thank you. So this was a lot harder than I thought it would be. The idea of sharing 2 things within 10 years was very, very challenging and a lot more difficult. So what has changed? So I'm still at NC Harry like I was 10 years ago, and this is a project I showed back then. This is the Vizcaya Museum and Gardens that back then was still being designed, so to speak, and ended up being obviously built. And this was probably a project that I'm still very proud of, because this is literally taking out a skylight while the museum was still operational, inserting it, pulling it out and inserting it back in, all in the middle of hurricane season. And we started in April and had to be done by September. And it became a project in which every detail was thought of. This is the client that obviously is very aware of the jewel that Vizcaya is as a building, as well as to our community. So we must have modeled almost every detail of this skylight. Everybody wants it to be light, and that's what we did. I still continue to do a lot of schools, they range from small renovations to a complete sort of gutting of the facilities. We do work for both all 3 counties, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. And it's a wonderful thing to really bring these buildings back. Some of them are very old, to sort of to last another 20 years. And so this is very much our practice. This is the other extreme of the type of work that we're doing. This is a salmon farm. Yes, a salmon farm in Homestead, Florida. Salmon, as you well know, is a cold water fish. However, this is a 350,000 square foot facility that they hope to produce about 14 million pounds of fish. This is a huge facility. That tank, the picture on the left, we have 36 of those tanks that are 50 feet in diameter and 25 feet high. So this is very much part of what we're doing. This element of design. So part of that approach is what happened with it at 10 years was really I became an owner, and I started out as just a small owner to eventually now I own half the company. And this really kind of summarizes how I feel almost every other day. So we all know the professional handbook from AIA on the left, which is a wonderful resource that I would venture 99% of us have only opened once and haven't opened again. So the middle one is more like what I feel that, how do I manage the firm, and I don't, always know what I'm doing, and I spend most of my day on the image on the right, in which I'm looking at the projects. I'm trying to figure out, money in, money out, the type of project, my financial management that is required when you own a firm. It's something that you are never told of when you first are in school. Everybody wants to have their own firm, and you want to be the designer. But it's all those things that we're not taught at school that I think we need to add. How do we really keep a practice going? So, it's really about, and for NC Harry, it's really about a legacy. We're a firm that was established in 1957. And we've been honored to be named Firm of the Year, both by AIA Florida and AIA Miami. But one of the things that I'm very proud of is really how diverse we are as a firm. As I said, I started out as a small owner. Now I own 50%, and our firm really reflects what we believe in. We practice what we preach. Craig McCart is my partner, African American, and I am 50% owner for Hispanic American. Half of our staff is both male and female. We have a whole plethora of people that work with us, and we're very much a family. Whether we're going on a cruise or doing other things. The other thing that changed for me in the 10 years is that I continued my involvement in the AIA, and Miami honored me with the silver medal in 2010. And Cheryl, you guys used to give chocolate. I haven't seen those in a while. But more importantly, in 2012, I was elevated to the College of Fellows at Washington, D.C. National Cathedral. A spectacular place to be elevated. AIA always tends to pick really, really good places. And I'm such an AIA fan that I even had earrings with AIA on it. But how I got there was really going to the inaugural Women Leadership Summer in Chicago in 2009 and seeing that there was a whole lot of women out there who didn't necessarily know each other, or if we did, we didn't really connect. So it's very much about, what is our status? Where are we as women? And I came back to Miami and asked Naki and Cricket was the incoming president. I said, we need to start a Women in Architecture committee here in Miami. When I moved here, I didn't know anybody because I didn't go to school at UM or FIU. So I really had a loss. And so what is a women and what's going to look like in 2050? We don't know that. So it's very much how do we mentor, how do we engage our professionals. Next. And it's very much about starting this 8x8 that we started. Our first one was held in 2011 with all of the women that are here. And it was amazing how everybody jumped in and said, absolutely, we'll do it. They had no idea what I was asking them into. But we've hosted it every year since. We have architects, associate members, engineers, educators. We've done things to speed mentoring. We've also created a Women in Architecture toolkit that we shared with nationwide so that we can help committees grow out there next. And ultimately, one of the things that really drives my passion is the numbers of women that we have. When I graduated in college, there was only 4% registered women. We're now a little closer to 22. It's still a very low numbers. And these are images of an annual event that we do, History Month, for March, and we sort of talk about the status of women. When I was a president in 2004, I was only the second woman president in AIA in Miami. The last one was in 1941. So this is very, very dismal. Fortunately, by now we've increased our numbers. We've had a total of 8 women since 1941. So we're at 12% of all the total of men that are out there. But leadership and profitable and things like that, women are still a very, very low numbers. And it's something that drives me because we have so many talented women out there that for X or Y reason don't finish their career or don't get licensed or move on. And it's because they don't see, they don't have a role model, they don't see other women that do it next. And one of the things that struck me when I was elevated to the College of Fellows and we had the dinner at the AIA Florida was that I was the only woman at the dinner for fellows that had the medal that was me. I was not the spouse of one of the old white men that was there. And I remember turning around to Alan Schulman and Rebecca Schulman and saying, oh my God, we have to lower the age group because there was all wonderful older men and we gotta increase diversity. And I have made it my passion to help a lot of women and encourage them. And along the way, I've made friends with them as well. Nati Soto, who I was honored to sponsor, and she was elevated in 2015. Joyce Owens, who is from Southwest, I also sponsored her. This year, I've also sponsored men. And there's a couple of candidates. Elizabeth is on my list that she needs to be elevated to fellowship. And on the bottom right, you see a few, the involvement of the AIA is not just myself, but my partner and, you know, maybe future fellows as well. And it's really about raising the status. Thank you.
Thank you, Lourdes. So my next speaker is Nati Soto, Natividad Soto. She's the president of Ferguson Glasgow Schuster Soto. Her firm, with a rich history that began in 1955, offers expertise in healthcare, corporate, and municipal architecture and interior design. She has served the AIA in local, state, and national ways, and most recently as 2019 president of AIA Florida. She's a founding board member of the Miami Center of Architecture and Design, serving as its president from 2015 to 2018. She co-founded AIA Miami Women in Architecture Committee. She is personally and professionally dedicated to leading efforts that result in positive outcomes. Nati.
Thank you, Cheryl. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, excellent. So as I follow my little sister, because I have a big sister, but this is my little sister, Lourdes. This lady called me up in 2010 and said, oh, I went to this conference and we have to do something. So we met at a restaurant, and this is the result after 10 years that with many, many ladies that have helped us and made an investment in this association and in the empowerment of women. This is where we're at. So one of the things that I did in the last 10 years is, after being AIA Miami president, I went on to the state and became AIA Florida director. When I got to the state, I was very much alone in the sense of participation of other women. So I looked around and I said, well, you know, we got to do something about that. So Lourdes and I, and also at the same time, I was on the AIA National Diversity Council, what it was called before, what it is now, what is the Equity Council. So we got together and we created the toolkit that Lourdes mentioned that has helped ladies throughout the US in developing what they have done at their chapters as well, and it's been great. So another thing I was involved in was the repositioning think tank that the AIA National had. So all of these things, basically my decision about 10 years ago was, I need to do a little bit something more for everybody. And as you all know, or maybe don't know, I have a daughter who went to architecture school much after I said, do you really want to do that? And she did. She wanted to follow mommy's footsteps. And I'm very proud that she is an architect. She's a registered architect and has done that. But I'm also very proud that I've been able to interact with all these other ladies that you see in these pictures that have become my sisters, my soulmates. And it's all started, you know, at that meeting 10 years ago. I became AIA Florida president for last year. I've been able to involve myself in the future of AIA Florida through the Strategic Council. I started 10 years ago with the 100 years, 100 places. And now I'm hopefully setting up what's gonna happen at least within the next 10, 15 years in Florida. So this is expressing my passion for architecture, my passion for the AIA, my passion for architecture overall, and my passion for the community through my involvement with the Miami Center for Architecture and Design, which I think has made a huge difference in how people see architecture in our community, and really exposed the love of architecture and how important it is to develop a community. So again, this is what I've dedicated myself to on a personal level. And obviously, you know, couple things personally, I did get my fellowship in 2015 in Atlanta, thanks to Lourdes at Martin Luther King's church in Atlanta, which was fabulous, with people that have really helped me out. And I got to graduate 2 children from college. So 2 children in the last 10 years have graduated from college and have developed very good lives. So I'm very proud of that as well. But in the meantime, I've also been an architect, and I love collaboration. So this first project is a project that we're collaborating with Brillhart Architecture for Miami-Dade County Parks and Rec, which is going to be a community center, really fun place with state-of-the-art things that are going to entice the community. For the Jay Kislak Foundation, we did a beautiful little gallery at the Freedom Tower in the Miami-Dade County, Miami-Dade College owns. We also have focused in the last 10 years on developing our expertise in the medical profession, most recently with rehabbing several floors at the Jackson Memorial Hospital to entice better clients. And then another one of our focuses in the last 10 years has been parks projects, including the Must Park Pavilion in Miami Beach, which is, we call it an indoor-outdoor place that the doors can open, close at a moment's notice by push of a button. And it's always, most of the time it's open for the kids to enjoy the place. And the last slide is very personal and very much to the subject. This is Carrollton School in Coconut Grove. Carrollton is an all-girls school, and we're very proud to have done their convocation center, the Foray Convocation Center, which is really supports their arts program and the beautiful women that come out of that school that really make an impact to the community. I thank all of you for being here. This is really the culmination of the last 10 years work, and I'm so proud and moved by the attendance here and the passion shown by the ladies that have presented today.
Thank you, Nati. So let me bring up our last but not least speaker, Surya Yafar. Surya, there you are. Partner at Ziskovich Architects. Surya has more than 25 years of experience in creating and directing distinctive urban design and architectural solutions for unique community redevelopment projects, complex large mixed-use projects, and community transportation planning throughout the U.S. As a key design leader, she consistently brings elegant and efficient solutions that weave the community, the natural environment, and the building programs together into award-winning architecture that become meaningful places. Sorry?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Cheryl. It's wonderful to be here with all these extraordinary women architects and to see their lives and how that begins to continue to inspire their work. Today, 10 years ago, we went through a very difficult moment in time in our economy. And, but I do have to say that what it really has reinforced over the years is our understanding of community. The things that continue to inspire is producing work that helps to create a sense of place, community for people, and that is a significant component of what inspires my life as an architect and urban designer. I'm very lucky to tell you that at Ziskovich, we're now, we have 46% of women architects in our firm, women in leadership roles, my partner Annabella Smith, directors, senior architects, and what we enjoy discussing at times when we do have a moment is that the I really has been changed to the we, and that collaborative effort that all of you have been talking about really has and plays a role in how we come together, how we inspire the thinking that drives what we do together. I will start today with the 2 projects that ended up starting at 10 years ago and now are completed, and share with you a little bit of the progress of the work that we are doing in our community. This one is Ventura Park Square is an 8-acre site that initially was conceived as just a residential development. It turned into an opportunity for us to be able to do an urban neighborhood that is not just mixed use, but is also a multi-generational community. We looked carefully at what kind of uses we could bring together that were synergistic and that would help create that vibe of a place. It really is a tremendous amount of work that we did in connection with our different clients. Each one of those buildings turned out to be a very different client. We also started a infrastructure and transportation group with this project that is all about Florida. We were the urban planners that established a location for all 3 stations that were part of our previous analysis as urban designers in these different communities in South Florida. We also had a collaborative effort with SOM in the design of these facilities and work together, actually share offices. We brought our staff to their offices in New York, and they brought staff down to Miami to work on these projects. And we had a wonderful working relationships to create these, I think, tremendously important infrastructure, well needed in our communities. We also have done in the past years projects that are a mix of architecture and urban design. This is one instance where for the Mana Wynwood project, we adjusted a special area plan under the Miami 21 code to provide flex uses that are usually not associated with the typology that we see here in South Florida. This was about bringing spaces for institutional uses, for creative professionals, showrooms, exhibition space, art galleries, mixed with more traditional uses, offices, hotels. The center of this place, it really is close to a 4-acre park that is really going to become the life of the civic life and the community life of the community that we created the framework for. This is an example of a brownfield site that has been remediated. It's in North Miami Beach. It was an interesting effort for us as we began to understand that the most important amenities that we can have in our communities are educational. We have a school here, it's one of the amenities, and a 21-acre park that is right next to the development that was integrated into the rest of the project. We feel that we brought in the connectivity of not just the people that live and work in this community, but also everyone else into this place. This was a very interesting project for us. We work with transportation planners, which was a first for us for the SMART plan, the Northeast corridors and the beach corridors. We worked on the land use that basically evaluated strategic, land use policies and options that could help provide support to enable the ridership to be there when these stations and when the system occurs. So we were able to work hand in hand with them and the county to be able to understand what land use policies we needed to create in order to support transportation corridors. We have a client in the Northeast District of Wynwood that asked us to create a master plan for sites that were not adjacent to one another. So the challenge was, how do we bring a cohesive sense of community to 7 non-adjacent sites? Each one of them had a different approach to residential living. They all have different characters, heights, uses, and together they were tied by this element that we created that is a pedestrian mall, a wood earth, that helps link all of these separate parcels together. The next projects are going to show you these new categories of living that we are involved with. We're participating along with the MDO architects in creating the Centennial Village at the University of Miami. Life on campus provides an opportunity for us to integrate living and learning environments for a diverse group of students that are just starting their first year of school. We wanted to be very conscientious of bringing safe and secure and healthy environments that with the wellness and health technology we're able to include. I know, Cheryl, you want to go fast. So the next one is a very interesting initiative that we are about to start, which is an aging housing stock in the middle of our community and our city of Miami. The Miami-Dade County Housing Authority released some of these large old stock housing parcels when we came up with an approach that will bring in a vibrant, healthy, and mixed income residential district in mixed use to replace these old facilities that are in place. We feel confident with our client that we will be able to achieve that and link all the neighborhoods into the existing assets that are in place. And finally, you can see here, over the years, we have continued to build community also in-house. I'm happy to show you my everyday team here on this picture. These are members of our design group and urban design group that continue to inspire me and the work that we do together. And we feel that with that, we can continue in the next 10 years, Cheryl, to have positive impacts in South Florida in with the work that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Suri. That was terrific. So with that, I want to thank everyone for sharing and turn this over to Nati.
Hi there. So I'm really excited. I got one of the best jobs in this committee, and that is to introduce Mary Margaret Sindren. So Mary Margaret, I've known a little bit in the last few years. I've worked with her with some of the things that we've done nationally. But this is, I'm really excited that she's on this program. She's the EVP Executive Director of AIA Minnesota, AIA Minneapolis, AIA Northern Minnesota, AIA St. Paul, and the Minnesota Architectural Foundation. So Mary Margaret received AIA National Case Emerging Leader Award in 2018 for very obvious reasons. And she's on the AIA National Equity and the Future of Architecture, the EQFA committee. She has been recognized for her leadership in transforming organizations to live their values with integrity, accelerate strategic impact, grow a culture of advocacy, and make equity, inclusion, and intercultural competence foundational. She's a mother of 2 wonderful daughters, a speaker, facilitator, writer, a movie lover, and hopefully she will finish her screenplay. And I'm very excited to hear her speak tonight. Hi, Mary Margaret. Unmute yourself.
There's that small thing. All right, thank you.
Little thing.
It's great to see you. It's great to see friends from before the pandemic. It really is such an honor to be a part of this program. I am going to share my screen. I'm going to actually stop my video while we do that, because as I walk through the next 40 minutes, I think you'll want to see the slides more than me. I'm going to share this quickly. So can you all see my screen?
Yes, definitely.
Fantastic. Okay. So there's a lot about this moment joining you that is different from what I imagined. I imagined, in my mind's eye, doing that whole TED Talk thing where I was would be walking and talking at the same time. I also imagined that I'd be in Miami with all of you. And I know that you all are saddened to not be together in person. I was also really looking forward to being there. My sadness is compounded by the fact that we've gotten 9 inches of snow in the past 3 days. And those of you who've been to Minnesota in the fall, including those who attended the Women's Leadership Summit when we hosted it here in Minneapolis in September last year, know how beautiful Minneapolis usually is in the fall. There usually isn't snow in October. Prince, our beloved son of Minneapolis, used to sing a song titled "Sometimes It Snows in April." But these are unusual times. And in 2020, it has not only snowed in October, it also snowed in May. These are obviously unusual times in so many other ways too, for us as individuals, family members, community members, workers, and leaders. Following the murder of George Floyd, times went from unusual and anxious in the context of the pandemic to become so much more. I am forever changed by Memorial Day 2020, as is every Minnesotan and every American of conscience. George Floyd was murdered 5 miles from my home. The protests were overwhelmingly peaceful. They also turned destructive and deadly. As several indictments now confirm, much of the violence and destruction was fomented and committed by white supremacists, both from within and outside of our state. The unrest extended to within 2 blocks of my home, where the gas station where my kids would buy slushies and candy bars was burned to the ground. Now, whenever I hear a siren or a helicopter flying overhead, I hear the echo of rubber bullets. I feel the tightness in my chest that was constant for the many days that my city was in anguish and pain. But what I feel is nothing in comparison to the depth of pain, the fear and outrage that my Black friends and friends of color have experienced. They truly are exhausted from the weight of it all. That anguish and pain still exists within us. They have been dulled by time, but stay in our cells and in our bones. I tell you this to give you context for my perspective on leadership and the need for culture change. I will focus my remarks today on culture change in the profession of architecture, but I encourage you to think about what is applicable to the broader culture change that our nation so desperately needs. Intercultural development theory tells us that when people are polarized, when we see others as not just wrong in their thinking, but wrong at their core, when we see the world as fixed, where if one gets more, the other must get less, we are incapable of creating a shared future that is prosperous and joyful for all. As the poet Gwendolyn Brooks put it so well, we are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. This is why gatherings like yours are so important. It is the work of communities and of associations to bring us together, where we can do more together than we could do on our own. Together, you are a force for profound change, and we desperately need change in this world and in this profession of architecture. I'm excited to share with you today the outcomes of our Culture Change Initiative, an AIA Minnesota effort to analyze the profession of architecture. The goals of the Culture Change Initiative have been to examine the current culture of the profession, to define the desired culture, what we're aiming for, and to determine what it will take to accelerate progress from the current state to the desired state. The Culture Change Initiative was prompted by the rise of the Me Too movement in spring of 2018. The New York Times investigation of accusations made against Richard Meyer, and the wide circulation of a list that brought forward additional accusations anonymously, which was pulled down due to liability concerns. As a chapter, we saw the need to go beyond a revision of the AIA Code of Ethics and policies focused on harassment and discrimination to understand and address the deeply rooted issues in the culture of architecture, a culture that allowed such behavior, open secrets in the profession, to be tolerated. We were informed by the AIA San Francisco chapter's research findings from its Equity by Design initiative, and by AIA Minnesota's own research between 2014 and 2018. From our Women in Architecture Committee's research making the business case for growing the number and influence of women in the profession, our diversity task force research and recommendations, and our strategic planning research. We took on both primary and secondary research in our work to examine the profession. Our original primary research involved assembling more than 70 members of AIA Minnesota as the Culture Change Resource Team. They met in multi-hour sessions, including in-depth small work, 5 times over the course of 2019 and 2020. The group was demographically diverse, with the intent of reflecting the demographics of the population of Minnesota, therefore overrepresenting the number of women and people of color in the profession. It was also diverse in age and in positional power, from individuals very new to the profession in entry-level positions through to individuals who were recently retired and had been the CEOs of architecture firms. These sessions with the Culture Change Resource Team members were also augmented by interviews with AIA members in rural areas of Minnesota, for whom the 2019 meetings held in person were not as accessible. And following the murder of George Floyd, meetings were held with Black architects and designers, some but not all of whom had also been involved in the Culture Change Resource Team, to gain additional insights. Secondary research sources included the AIA Guides for Equitable Practice, which were the basis for the initial questions asked of the Culture Change Resource Team. Media's interviews with and columns written by people who are underrepresented in architecture in terms of their gender, race, ethnicity, ability and disability, and sexual orientation also informed this work of examining the current culture and defining the desired culture. To determine what would best move the culture from current state to desired state, we turned to systems theory, in particular leverage points analysis, as well as complexity theory, adaptive leadership theory, and intercultural development theory. Today, I'm going to share with you these outcomes of our research and analysis, and why culture change is possible now, the catalyzing forces and business case for change, how the desired culture involves aiming for AEC, a culture that is authentic, equitable, and collaborative. Insights from systems thinking and leverage points analysis that can accelerate our ability to create the change we seek. That culture change is the work of cultivation, creating the conditions for change. And that this is everyone's work. No matter your demographics, no matter your position, you can lead culture change. The first finding is that culture change is possible now. Systems theory tells us that destabilization of a system makes it more susceptible and more amenable to change. Over the past few years, there have been 4 profoundly destabilizing forces building upon each other to make now the right time to lead change in the culture of the profession of architecture. First, the Me Too movement, which has led firm leaders and clients to do more to identify and address barriers that hinder the success of women in their careers. Second, the nation's latest reckoning with systemic racism, bringing to the fore concerns about the practices, structures, and culture of the profession that make it difficult to attract and retain people of color in architecture, and get in the way of creating equitable and just design solutions. Third, the rise of climate change as a societal and client priority, and as a top priority of AIA National. And fourth, the COVID-19 pandemic, which forced the profession to adopt remote work approaches and flexible hours, and to recognize the challenges faced by caregivers. The fact that the entire profession made a shift to remote work almost overnight and has sustained this way of working for many months has created unprecedented opportunity to reshape our thinking about where, when, and how we work as the pandemic continues and eventually wanes. The convergence of these major destabilizing forces creates a once-in-a-generation opportunity for systems change, for culture change. It's important to note that these destabilizing forces are indeed overlapping and intersectional in nature, and these forces affect both the profession and the built environment. The pandemic has had deeper impacts on women, who tend to still carry significantly more of the caregiving burden than men. People of color are more susceptible to severe health impacts from the pandemic due to health issues tied to systemic racism in healthcare and generational poverty. Climate change is a contributor to the creation and the dispersion of novel coronaviruses like COVID-19 and has disproportionate impacts on people of color who through discriminatory housing and planning practices are more likely to live in areas with less green space, higher temperatures, and more air pollution. While this culture change initiative is focused on the profession of architecture, it is clear that these same destabilizing forces are already changing the desires of clients and the design solutions that will best protect the public health, safety, and welfare going forward. With this in mind, the firms that are best positioned for success in the years ahead are firms whose demographics reflect those of the broader population. Firms that have strong, ongoing partnerships with women-owned and BIPOC-owned firms, and firms where individuals throughout the firm have strong collaboration skills and the ability to both recognize and bridge across to adapt toward difference, what is called intercultural competence. Here we're talking about not just internal demographic differences, but being able to work successfully with industry teams, with clients, and with users who are and will be more demographically diverse than ever. The diversity, inclusion, and intercultural competence of the team will be key to winning work, public, nonprofit, and private sector work, and being able to complete that work to the satisfaction of clients and users. Firms positioned for success are also those that have made flexible, outcomes-based approaches core to their way of working and have established a solid base of skill and knowledge in developing, implementing, and measuring design solutions that are climate-oriented and equitable. Unfortunately, the number of firms that can say with integrity that they are currently well-positioned in these ways is much fewer than it needs to be for the profession to succeed in the years to come. There is a true business imperative for the culture of the profession to change. Culture change is needed to support firms' ability to survive and thrive. In determining the culture we need to create, we recognize this business imperative. We also went through all the notes from the multiple multi-hour conversations with the Culture Change Resource Team, the additional interviews and media articles and columns, and mapped those against the AIA Guides for Equitable Practice. We grouped and narrowed and landed upon these three core elements of the desired culture: authentic, equitable, and collaborative. And yes, the acronym is conveniently AEC. When we're talking about an authentic culture, it's one where a person can be open in sharing their thoughts and perspectives, and where people talk with each other in a way that isn't only focused on work, where the lives people live, the many aspects of who they are known and valued. Authentic culture is one based on trust. Trust that is from the beginning of the relationship rather than required to be proven and earned over time. An authentic culture is one of candor based on trust and mutual respect, where various and opposing views can be expressed and heard, and where they have the potential to shape the outcome. And an authentic culture is one where you can be yourself, where your gender, your sexual orientation, your race, your ethnicity, and other important aspects of who you are don't have to be concealed in order for you to be seen as a valuable member of the team. In Minnesota, working to create an authentic culture within the profession of architecture is particularly challenging. Minnesota culture tends to avoid conflict, and openly disagreeing is considered by many to be rude. In the face of headwinds from Minnesota culture more broadly, we will need to focus first on trust and respect. Recognize that there may be aspects of the broader culture of Miami and of Florida that either further or create barriers to creating a culture of authenticity. I encourage you to think about aspects of Miami's culture that make authenticity within the profession easier or harder to create. When we talk about an equitable culture, it's one where we move beyond focusing on what we all have in common, our shared humanity, our shared desire to create great outcomes in the built environment, and recognize where there are differences among us. Focusing on equal distribution of resources and treating everyone the same often ignores important differences in how the broader world and the profession have historically treated people who have been underrepresented within or marginalized by the architecture community. Equitable cultures focus on fair outcomes. They recognize where the system of architecture provides inherent advantages to some individuals more than others, and offers ways to bridge those gaps. Equitable cultures recognize where there are aspects of the culture that accelerate the career growth of some individuals and hinder the career growth of others. Golf as a networking and mentoring activity is one example. It is a sport that takes a lot of time and money to get good at, and one where women and people of color were long excluded. The amount of time it takes to practice and to play makes it less conducive for people who are caregivers to participate in. Equitable cultures adopt beliefs and frame challenges in a way that recognizes disparities are more systemic in nature than about the individual. And leaders within equitable cultures are those who are able to adapt toward the differences of others, as opposed to assuming or insisting that others adapt toward your own traditions or ways that are comfortable for you. We are also aiming for a collaborative culture. One of the most interesting findings from our research was that many people take pride in the collaborative nature of architecture, that this is seen as a characteristic of the current culture of the profession. Yet at the same time, many others in the profession did not see the culture as collaborative and pointed to the many ways it is individualistic in nature. The difference here was particularly pronounced among women and people of color. While the stated intentions, the assumptions, are that the work of architecture is collaborative, the actual experience of women and people of color was that the work did not always feel collaborative. When we looked back at our strategic planning research that was done in 2016, we saw the same issues related to the broader AEC industry. Architects viewed themselves as collaborative and want to be seen as collaborators. But people in the trades, engineering, and construction did not see architects as collaborative and wished for more of a collaborative spirit industry-wide. We're talking here about how there is currently a difference between intent and impact related to collaboration. In the desired culture, the intentions of collaboration are matched by how collaborative the process actually feels for all involved. In a collaborative culture, teamwork is prioritized over individual achievement. This is reflected in things like criteria for performance evaluations and in how project outcomes are assessed. Collaborative cultures foster mutual respect, no matter one's age, experience, gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, abilities, or disabilities. And a collaborative culture involves to understand and responding based on what is learned. Listening to understand is different than active listening, which is a particular practice of reflecting back to someone what was heard and confirming what is understood. Active listening can come across as inauthentic and distancing. Listening to understand is about being authentically present. It also requires a comfort with not knowing, an assumption that as the listener, you have much to learn from others, as opposed to holding tightly to the idea of architect as expert. And finally, collaborative cultures recognize there is no one right way, that there are almost always multiple ways of interpreting information, executing a process, and getting to a desired outcome. For those who feel that it is daunting to try to create a culture of architecture that is authentic, equitable, and collaborative, it's critical to realize that culture is built every day by every one of us through the actions we take, the conversations we have, the questions we ask, and the choices we make. Every one of us, every day. This recognition led us to look more specifically at the system of the profession and those everyday actions and decisions. We recognize that the profession of architecture is a dynamic, adaptive human system to which systems theory, systems thinking, could be applied in determining how it currently operates and how we can best and most quickly move from the current state of the culture to the desired state. To ensure shared meaning, systems thinking is about viewing the elements of a system in a holistic, expansive way, focused on the interconnectedness and relationships among elements of the system, rather than on the individual parts. Recognizing that dynamic, adaptive systems don't operate in a linear fashion or in silos. Each element influences the other in ways that are ever emergent. What's courageous about systems thinking is that it leads you to ask questions that are impolitic, that can feel uncomfortable. It leads you to solutions that may be counterintuitive and challenge foundational assumptions and beliefs. A systems thinking intervention is particularly useful when you're dealing with an issue that's important, a problem that's chronic and familiar, and a problem that people have tried to solve but have yet to be successful in addressing. The problems related to the culture of the profession certainly seem to meet this definition. So in identifying ways to intervene in the system, we turn to leverage points analysis, the approach developed by Donella Meadows decades ago that remains core to systems theory. Meadows identified 12 leverage points, 12 places to intervene in a system, each with varying levels of ability to move the system. The 12th and least impactful is the leverage point of constants, parameters, and numbers, the stocks flowing into a system. In the case of the profession of architecture, this would be the numbers of individuals of various demographics entering the profession. The 11th is buffers and stabilizers, elements of the system that counter and diffuse the impact of efforts focused on the flow of stocks into the system. 10th, how the system is structured. 9th, delays between when an action is taken in the system and the impact of that action. 8th, balancing feedback loops, those that work to keep the system at its existing equilibrium. 7th, reinforcing feedback loops, those that encourage actions to build upon each other to create a particular outcome. 6th, the flow of information. Who has access to what information at what times in what sequence? 5th, rules. What is rewarded and what is discouraged? Both the rules that are stated and those that go unsaid and are inherently understood by those who are successful or dominant in the culture. 4th, who has the power to change what elements of the system? The power to experiment, to self-organize, to make determinations in the moment. Third, the stated and unstated goals of the system. Sometimes the goal of reaching a particular level of profit, for example, is not stated or shared broadly enough to be a common goal, but is kept close within a small group of executives. Second, mindsets and paradigms, the beliefs, biases, and assumptions from which the other aspects of the system flow. Mindsets are the basis for everything from structure to information flows to rules and goals. And first, the ability to transcend paradigms, to look entirely beyond the existing system and its mindsets to new ways of thinking and being. The interventions that focus on the leverage points closest to the fulcrum in this graphic are those with the least ability to impact systems change, while those farthest away, most distant from the fulcrum, are where small changes can have significant impact on the system. One of the documents that I've sent along to the organizers, I'm going to share very briefly here, just a snapshot of it. It'll take a moment for it to load, I guess. There we go. Is a leverage points analysis, and this document will be shared with you if it hasn't already been by the organizers of the Women's Leadership Summit. It's a leverage points analysis of the system of the profession through that lens of culture change. We've addressed each leverage point based on what was learned from our research. And even though it's not an exhaustive analysis, it starts to illuminate the many ways that our various structures, processes, goals, and mindsets are self-reinforcing, and where our efforts are counterbalancing. The fact is that we're very often getting in our own way. Go back here for just take another second, I think. Okay. So overall, when it comes to most efforts to change a system, people and organizations focus their attention on this 12th leverage point, those constants, parameters, and numbers. It's the leverage point that is most obvious and logical to people. However, it takes extraordinary effort, extraordinary resources for interventions focused on numbers to have an impact in moving the system. We've actually seen this play out in architecture for years related to pipeline efforts. There's no question that pipeline efforts are crucial to create a profession that reflects the demographics of the public the architecture community serves. We need to inspire and encourage young people to pursue a career in architecture. But pipeline efforts aren't enough. The current members of the profession need to change themselves and the organizations they've built and that they sustain. We've already seen how true this is in the context of women in architecture. As you know, for years, the number of women graduating from schools of architecture has been around 50%, which essentially mirrors the broader population. Yet career progress among women often stalls out, the missing 32%. There are other forces within the system that are counterbalancing. The fact that there are still very few women who hold the top positions in architecture firms or are in lead design roles speaks to the aspects of the system that go beyond the pipeline of new entrants. And having few women or people of color in top positions within architecture flows back and influences the numbers flowing into the system, dissuading young women and people of color from pursuing an architecture career. Many individuals and firms have put a great deal of time and money into youth engagement. More recently, firms are developing relationships with historically Black colleges and universities, wanting to strengthen recruitment efforts. But without also examining the rest of the system, the situation these young people are being recruited into, these recruitment efforts will ultimately be unsuccessful. It's really a matter of integrity, If we are serious about recruiting people of all genders, people with disabilities, LGBTQ+ people, people of all races and ethnicities to the profession of architecture, we need to be equally serious about ensuring that firms are set up to ensure these young people have a strong chance to thrive within the culture of the profession. To create a profession that reflects and can best serve the public, we need strong pipeline efforts focused on the numbers flowing into the system. To create a culture where all can thrive, we need to focus on interventions on the far side of the continuum. Things like who has access to what information, the actions and approaches that are encouraged and discouraged, who holds power in what situations, the goals of the system, and the mindsets that are foundational to the system. Mindsets are where we believe the work of culture change in the profession needs to focus, in tandem with and complementary to pipeline efforts. Drawing from intercultural development theory and adaptive leadership theory, self-awareness is core to growth and change. Self-awareness at both the individual level and the organizational level. This is about being honest with ourselves about the mindsets we hold, being curious about where those mindsets came from, how they were instilled, and how tightly or loosely we currently hold on to these mindsets. Our primary and secondary research sought to understand the mindsets currently held within the profession, both those that are dominant and those that are emergent. We developed a long list of these mindsets drawn from this research. These mindsets are profession-wide, identifying and examining the mindsets you hold personally or that exist within your firm is the self-awareness work that is yet to be done. We took this work a step further and identified desired mindsets within the profession. Those that on balance would be more likely to accelerate than to hinder creation of the desired culture that is authentic, equitable, and collaborative. In most cases, the mindsets needed to accelerate change already exist within the profession, but are emergent, not dominant. To determine what mindsets already exist within a culture, and to determine where culture change is happening, we need to be actively looking for patterns of behavior that demonstrate that are the manifestations of the mindsets we want to move away from, or the mindsets we want to reinforce. This is pattern spotting. It can reveal where our self-awareness, individually and organizationally, is flawed or uninformed, or where our intent is not matching our impact. This document that I'm scrolling through now is another that we've asked the organizers to share with you. And it's focused on these mindsets we've identifying and brings forward the mindsets that are hindering or accelerating our path to that desired culture. One mindset that's very prevalent is that long hours show dedication and are a badge of honor. We found this to be a mindset that hinders an authentic, equitable, and collaborative culture, and that a parallel mindset that is emergent will be more likely to accelerate change toward the culture we seek. The mindset that long hours are unhealthy and don't lead to quality work. Another very prevalent mindset is that architects can design a better world. We found this to be a mindset that does not hinder the culture we seek, and that it is a mindset that should be reinforced and further leveraged in the context of culture change, toward a mindset that the architecture community can design a better profession. A complementary theory we dug into is complexity theory, which is about how we best implement interventions informed by our analysis of leverage points in the system. What leaders often want to do is simply direct that change happen, that new rules and policies be established, and that people be told to abandon past mindsets and adopt new ones. But it's not quite as simple as that. The work of culture change is cultivation. It's about creating the conditions for change to take root and grow. While the desired change does need to be defined, getting there is an adaptive and iterative process where listening, observing, and responding are key. It's a lot like being a gardener. A lot of us have taken to gardening during the pandemic, whether it's with a few houseplants or a backyard vegetable garden, so we might have an even deeper appreciation for what this means today than we did a year ago. Seeding is about both people and ideas. It's about inspiring people to pursue architecture as a career and bringing new people and partners into your firm. It's also about seeding new thinking and new experiments. Nurturing takes a lot of different forms. Like soil, it's important to make sure the environment where seeds are planted is rich with nutrients, that it has been prepared with the supports and resources that people of various backgrounds and identities may need to thrive. Like rain or watering, culture change benefits from regular pauses, from regularly questioning assumptions and ways of doing things. Like sun, culture change can grow more rapidly when light is shown on those efforts that are having the desired impact. Culture change also benefits from efforts to create space, where initiatives and individuals with potential to exemplify the desired culture have more room to grow, and where individuals and efforts that are crowding out authenticity, equity, and collaboration are challenged and sometimes even removed, where individuals are held accountable for their impact on the culture. When we see our efforts bear fruit, we have the opportunity to assess our outcomes, to compare our intentions to our impact. We can re-examine and rework our seeding, nurturing, and weeding approaches. It's important to recognize that this work is not linear in nature. Cultivation requires constant and simultaneous attention to seeding, nurturing, weeding, and harvesting. As we said early on in this presentation, culture is built every day by every one of us. This is true for culture change too. Culture change is everyone's work. No matter what position a person holds, how new or seasoned we are in the profession, the type of work we do, we have the opportunity to lead culture change. Think about your skills and what you get energy from doing. Think about the roles and responsibilities you hold, the people you currently work with, the opportunities you have to extend beyond your current roles and networks. Maybe you're someone who works well with young people. Maybe you're a creative interdisciplinary thinker. You can lead through seeding. Maybe you're someone who's able to recognize differences and is practicing bridging or adapting toward difference. Maybe you have a knack for identifying underlying assumptions. Maybe you're someone who can tell the stories of progress. You can lead through nurturing. Maybe you hold a position of authority to determine where resources go within an organization, or you hold responsibilities related to alignment and accountability. You can lead through weeding and creating space for positive growth. Maybe your skills are in analysis, or you tend to focus on outcomes more than process. Maybe you tend to encourage others to pause and celebrate the positive impacts their work has produced. You can lead in the work of harvesting. This is everyone's work. It cannot simply be the work of those in positions of leadership, or it will not take hold. Communities of practice are recommended as a way to support work like this, where people across an organization, across a profession or industry, are working together to reinforce each other's learning and experimentation. AIA Minnesota is creating a community of practice focused on culture change in the profession of architecture, and all within the architecture community who are committed to creating an authentic, equitable, collaborative culture are invited to join. This community of practice will start with a focus on mindsets. The mindsets document that you will receive is our starting point. We will encourage individual and organizational reflection and self-awareness. We will support experimentation and the sharing of learnings gained from those experiments. Overall, we will keep constant attention on this work and will practice what we preach. We will work to operate in a manner that is authentic, equitable, and collaborative. In that spirit of authenticity, I will admit that we don't have all the details worked out yet. The reason for this is twofold. First, we just completed the research phase of this work, and you are only the second group that I've shared these findings with. And then the second reason is that AIA Minnesota, like many components around the country, is facing constrained resources due to the impact of the pandemic on the architecture industry and on nonprofit associations like ours that derive net revenue from in-person gatherings of members and the public. We do know that the community of practice will need to be virtual in nature, though it may eventually include an in-person component as well. We also know that co-creation of the supports needed for this community of practice will be part of its work. So if you can commit to the work of creating a culture that is authentic, equitable, and collaborative, and you're willing to deal with a little ambiguity in terms of exactly how this work will be supported, we invite you to join this community of practice. It's as simple as sending an email to me or to my colleague, Paviel French. We intend to grow this community beyond Minnesota, and ideally over time, we hope to expand it to include the broader AEC industry as well. I'm also happy to provide the slide deck to those who request it. We'd like to know more about the context within which you're wanting to present it so that we can provide additional supports as needed. In closing, I want to bring us back to that excerpt from the Gwendolyn Brooks poem that I shared earlier. What I didn't mention, and what is often overlooked when you just see the ending of this poem, is that Gwendolyn Brooks wrote this about Paul Robeson, the extraordinary singer, actor, and civil rights activist. Paul Robeson was widely known for his performance of the song Old Man River from the musical Showboat. The musical and the character Robeson played reinforced racial stereotypes. So when he began to use his amazing voice to speak out against oppression and to try to mobilize people for change, Gwendolyn Brooks was inspired by this transition. Here's the full poem that she wrote in his honor. That time we all heard it, cool and clear, cutting across the hot grit of the day. The major voice, the adult voice, foregoing rolling river, foregoing tearful tale of bale and barge and other symptoms of old despond. Warning, in music words devout and large, that we are each other's harvest. We are each other's business. We are each other's magnitude and bond. This idea that Paul Robeson was warning people that our lives are deeply interconnected, was warning us that our individual success and freedom are inextricably tied to the success and freedom of others. It gives these words even greater gravity. It is to our peril that we ignore our connectedness as a profession and as a society. The world needs leaders who understand this and who will courageously work to strengthen the bonds among us that have been stretched to the breaking point. You can be those leaders. You can meet this moment from wherever you are, within your own family, within your firm, and within your community. You can lead with authenticity, equity, and collaboration as your North Star. And if you do so, you will create a better profession and a better world. Thanks so much again for having me with you today. I'm going to stop sharing and rejoin you.
Mary Margaret, that was amazing. I missed you at CASE. I missed not having CASE this year.
Same here. Yes.
But it's lovely to see you online. And I wanted to just say thank you very much. It's amazing work that you're doing. And we definitely here at AIA Miami want to work with, well, let me say I personally, I haven't asked anyone else, but I'll get them going. And we asked people if they had questions to put them in the chat, and
Great.
I'm looking through there now, and I don't so far see any questions, just accolades. Thanking you and saying what an amazing presentation. So anybody, if you have any questions, now's the time. If not, I'll give you a few seconds to type them in. And I think your talk was so thorough, and we're all still kind of
it's a lot to take in.
Yes, we're absorbing everything. And
yeah, so I presented this for the first time at our conference. We actually are doing our annual conference 3 Tuesdays in a row. So for us on the staff team, it's like a 3-week long annual conference. But for our members, it works really well because it's just, 1 Tuesday at a time over these 3 weeks. And one question that someone had there was, what was the most surprising thing in this research? And it absolutely was when we were doing this leverage points analysis. I was actually here in the office on this big whiteboard, and I realized that, these pipeline efforts that we've all invested so much in, some of us for decades, we're at that 12th point of moving the system. And I literally gasped. I was so overwhelmed by that point. And yet it rings so true that, the issue is so much an issue of retention, but framing it that way makes it seem so arm's length. It takes away that issue of integrity of what are we wooing people toward, and have we prepared the community, have we prepared the profession to truly help people thrive? Yeah,
that's true.
So I do see a question here. I'm sorry,
yes.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, in your research and presentation, especially the first part, do you ever get negative feedback or kickback, and how do you handle that?
I'm trying to think the first part. About the systemic racism related to the built environment and the profession. Again, Minnesota is not a culture of candor. And so whatever folks may be thinking negatively, they haven't been saying it. And that may mean that our community is aligned as it may seem. We may be more aligned than perhaps other parts of the country, where I think it is more of a struggle. But the overwhelming response, and frankly, the only responses that I have heard, and I deal with, hundreds and hundreds of members on a regular basis, has been that yes, the 1,500 properties that were damaged and destroyed in the unrest are the results of decades, of hundreds of years of systemic oppression, and that the built environment reflected that, still reflects that, and that we must build back in a way that is the best of what we know is possible. And that's really the work that we're doing now with communities in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And there's so little in the way of dollar resources to bring to bear, but so much resource in the people who know what they want to create. And I am hopeful that we're going to bridge that gap between what people know they want for their communities, for their families, and what architects know is possible. That living level, that regenerative level of design is what we truly want to bring to bear here, at least to the degree that we can manifest it.
Yes, it's important that it be rebuilt in the best way possible. How is your organization, or how are you hoping to implement and share?
Yeah, so I realized that I have actually shared this 3 times now. I shared it at our annual conference, and I shared it with the Large Firm Roundtable last week before joining you. And so, those who might not be familiar with the Large Firm Roundtable, that's, the top 60 firms in size in the country. So each of those firms, is 300 to nearly 1,000 people in their workforces, and it was really well received by that Large Firm Roundtable, and a number of them are wanting to share it with their staff teams. So that's one way that we're trying to get that word out there. Again, know that we're not trying to be proprietary around this. I'm happy to share the slide deck and even my notes to share with others, because what we want is the profession to change. And so the more that we can get this in the hands of people, and one way maybe, oh my gosh, I heard my Minnesota accent come through so strong there. That's so funny. One way that we might do that is oh my gosh, I threw myself there. That's hilarious.
About moving forward.
Yes. Oh, EDI committees. I mean, so many firms have established JEDI committees or EDI committees.
Yep.
And they often, well, sometimes they struggle to figure out where should we put our time, where should we put our efforts. And I would really encourage them to join this culture change initiative, be part of this community of practice. Because what we will try to do is really, and even just the 2 documents that we've given you today, when you dig into this, we're poking a lot of bears here, things that have been held pretty sacred. And I'll say even the FAIA process, we coach our applicants to recast their CV, recast the work of their lives to be individualistic in nature. And the fact is, everybody knows it's a team, that they've been part of teams to create those great outcomes. So I'm not saying that we need to move away from recognizing the great impact that individuals have, but it needs to bring in more of this collaborative spirit. If we say that's what we want to be known for, how do we better celebrate that? So we want to start seeding the questioning and the pattern spotting to start growing that realization of what our culture is, and then have integrity around what we say we want, and then moving there.
Yeah, I was just going to mention the founder of our ED committee, that because I know he's listening, and he came in with a comment. It is so hopeful to hear the understanding and empathy that your presentation brings to the struggles of minorities in our country and profession. And his question is, because we're doing this, are you working with NOMA on this effort?
Yeah, so Kim Dowdell and several other members of the executive leadership team at NOMA National were present for that presentation I gave to the Large Firm Roundtable. And Kim and I sit on the EQFA committee at AI National together, and have been talking about how the way that we collaborate with our local MSP NOMA chapter can be shared throughout the country, because all of the work that we're doing related to the unrest is collaborative in nature. It is jointly led by our 2 organizations. So yes, definitely working with NOMA on this. And yet I've not yet talked with them about how we might collaborate in furthering this community of practice. Again, it's so new. We really pushed to get this ready to share with you. I think we set the date for well, I got the invitation to speak to this many, many, many months ago. I was like, by then we will
have to be
complete
done.
this, right? So you've been a big driver for me to get this work done and to share it with you today.
Well, thank you. And I know that we will reach out and the person that is on our board, he will be our president in a couple of years, and he is the one that has started, got our NOMA chapter here in Miami re-energized, and we're working with them very closely. So
fantastic.
We will definitely reach out to you. And there's Craig saying, absolutely, we will be involved. So you say, yay.
Yay, fantastic.
So let me again thank you as an amazing piece of work that you guys have done there. I'm so proud of you, and you know, your organization, our organization, for, you know, working to move the needle. So thank you again. Tons of accolades in the chat. I think you can see them. And we'll look forward to, you know, reporting back and seeing how things are moving forward. So thank you very much, Mary Margaret. And I think with that, I'm going to bring Elizabeth back.
Hi, Mary Margaret. Now we can see your face. Thank you
nice
so
to
much.
see you again.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thank you.
Great seeing you. So thank you so much for your emotional, heartfelt, and so in-depth presentation tonight. It's truly an honor to have you here with us and sharing all this incredible research and information with all of us.
Thank you.
And if you're available tomorrow and you can poke in and out of our sessions and share some more, we'll be more than happy to hear more from you again. And
I will do my best. My daughter's birthday is this week, so I'm trying to, you know, we had one celebration last night, and we've got another one planned for this weekend. So in between time, I will hope to pop in. Thank you.
Awesome. Happy birthday to your daughter. So, and I'm sure we'll be in touch in the future, as there is so much opportunity that's coming from this research, and putting the names to the shapes. It does help it. So before we end, since we are a little bit beyond time, I would just like to thank everybody for being here tonight and joining us and sharing your stories with us. I would like to thank my wonderful group of women that are part of my committee and make this summit happen. Lourdes Solera, FAIA NOMA, it's my vice chair. Natalie Berojal, Elena Carde, AIA, Mariana Cruz, Naomi Harrison, Associate AIA NOMA, Egipcia Perez, Associate AIA, Judith De Rojas, Associate AIA, Vanessa Smith Torres, AIA NOMA, and Nati Soto, FAIA. I would like also to thank the staff of the AIA Miami chapter. Without them, we would be nothing. This leadership summit, without our Zoom platform and the expertise of everybody at the office, wouldn't become a reality. So thank you to Cheryl Jacobs, Vice President, Executive Director of our chapter, Colleen Stovall, Director of Programs and Events, and Marilyn Lugo, Office Manager, Membership Coordinator, and AIA Summer Camp. So before you all click the Live tab, we have one last very short video, I promise, from our sponsor tonight. So if Colleen, you're ready to share with everybody, and I'll see you all tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Get some rest tonight because we have a very long day ahead of us tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Meeting deadlines is universally important, but especially critical in roofing. This was particularly important on the seminal Hard Rock Hotel and Casino project in Hollywood, Florida. As a premier project in the area, it was essential to maintain deadlines to complete the project on time and on budget. In addition, Performance was a major factor in the selection of the roofing material due to risk of exposure to high winds and torrential rain caused by hurricanes. Soprima's Cold-Ply EF ribbon applied system provided the perfect solution.
One of the many advantages we've discovered in installing the Soprima Cold-Ply roof system is the ease of installation. One ply set in ribbons and the roof system's watertight. Saves a lot of time and money, and it's much less labor intensive than a traditional roof system.
This unique system allows for quicker application and is less expensive than alternatives. Cold-Ply EF cures quickly and has an extremely strong bond to lightweight concrete and other concrete roof decks. This became especially important in 2017.
We were installing the Soprima Cold-Ply roof system just before Hurricane Irma. The 100-mile-an-hour winds should have devastated the roof. Fortunately, the Cold-Ply roof system performed, and as a result, we were immediately back to work on time and on budget. After our installation of the Soprima Cold-Ply roof system here at the Hard Rock Live and Seminole Hard Rock Project, we recommend the product and the system to all of our customers. It's a good roof system, we stand behind it, and we hope to be installing much more of it in the future.
Soprima, innovative building envelope solutions.
Well, thank you all again for being here with us tonight and hanging in there until past 8:25. Get some rest, and I'll see you all tomorrow morning. Come full of energy and ready to discuss. Thank you. Good night.